Welcome back to Stupid State Stories, where we chronicle the chronic catastrophes of coercive governance. I'm Chuck.
And I'm Megan. And today we're talking about something that gets me hotter than an audit of the Federal Reserve. First Amendment protections, gone completely off the rails.
A CBP agent in Maine was caught on camera recently telling a legal observer that she was being placed in a domestic terrorist database for filming them in public.
His exact words? Because we have a nice little database, and now you're considered a domestic terrorist. So have fun with that.
Being on a watch list used to mean you actually did something. Now it means you watch someone wearing a badge do something.
Did Falwell Jr.'s pool boy ever wear a badge? Maybe we need ICE to descend on Lynchburg. The video is just the latest example of the state labeling anyone who engages in First Amendment protected activity as a domestic terrorist.
DHS denied they run any such database. Trust me, bro.
Sure, like law enforcement doesn't run a massive Panopticon of cameras. Flock Safety does. Law enforcement just pays for it with your money.
Yep. Here's how that scam works. Flock installs cameras everywhere that track license plates, locations, movements, motorcycles, and menstrual cycles. Then they license access to that data to law enforcement.
So instead of getting a warrant to surveil citizens, cops just log into Flock's database and search whoever they want, whenever they want. No probable cause, no court oversight. No Fourth Amendment.
The warrant requirement? Gone. They can query the database anytime and justify it however they want after the fact.
That's law enforcement using our tax dollars to pay a private company to circumvent constitutional protections we fought for on surveillance abuses.
And as an added bonus, YouTuber Ben Jordan showed that these cameras are wildly insecure. Anyone with a USB-C cable in 30 seconds can own the neighborhood's data.
Your tax dollars at work, funding a surveillance system that violates the Fourth Amendment and can be accessed by literally anyone. Jordan called it Netflix for stalkers.
Brought to you by the same people who can't secure a border and occasionally murder you for complaining about it. In September, Dear Orange Leader issued a memo ordering federal law enforcement to focus on ideologies fueling domestic terrorism.
Let me guess. Questioning government was on that list?
You got it. His list included anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, and opposition to foundational American principles, like support for law enforcement and border control.
He literally listed free speech as terrorism. Questioning authority, criticizing religion, not worshiping law enforcement, those aren't crimes. They're the actual point of the First Amendment.
Reason magazine called it an assault on the First Amendment that treats protected speech as evidence of criminality requiring federal intervention.
But federal courts aren't buying it. A federal judge in Minnesota ruled that plaintiffs are likely to succeed on claims that federal officers engaged in targeted First Amendment retaliation. The judge found that recording agents did not forcibly obstruct or impede the agent's work.
The well-established right to record and observe police in public doesn't vanish because someone's wearing federal insignia.
Tell that to Brandon Seguenza. He was volunteering with a group monitoring ICE activity in Minneapolis when federal officers surrounded his car, smashed out his windows, roughly arrested him, and detained him for hours for filming them in public.
And DHS has repeatedly insisted that following and recording federal immigration agents in public violates a federal statute, making it a crime to assault or impede law enforcement officers.
They're conflating observation with obstruction. That's like arresting a witness at a crime scene for seeing stuff, which brings us to how people are protesting all this. And they're doing it spectacularly wrong.
The ICE protests aren't just ineffective. They're actively counterproductive.
You've got people blocking traffic, physically obstructing federal operations. And for what? A photo op?
It accomplishes nothing except making life miserable for regular people trying to get to work and giving violent, power-hungry federal agents the exact excuse they need to escalate.
Brandon Seguenza got his windows smashed and spent hours in detention for filming. Imagine what happens when you actually give them something to point to.
Alex Preddy was shot and killed. These agents are looking for reasons to use force. Don't hand them one.
And blocking traffic? That's not speaking truth to power. That's making enemies of people who might otherwise be sympathetic, while the state watches and waits for you to give them legal cover.
The irony is that the most effective protest is exactly what got Brandon arrested, simply observing and recording. But that requires patience, discipline, and actual commitment.
Instead, we get performative confrontation. Students and activists who think protest means gathering for a while, blowing whistles, blocking a road, chanting slogans, then going home to post about their bravery with the perfect Insta filter.
And the state? The state loves it. Every traffic blockade, every physical confrontation, every obstruction gives them exactly what they want. Justification for the crackdown they were planning anyway.
You're not resisting power. You're giving power exactly what it needs to tighten the grip.
And speaking of people who forgot how power actually works, let's talk about the Republican 180 on gun rights when that power is pointing back at them.
Oh, here we go. The Alex Preddy case. We've covered the First and Fourth Amendments. Hit me with number 2.
Number 2 is right. Last week, 37-year-old Alex Preddy was lawfully carrying a firearm in Minneapolis when immigration agents shot and killed him during an altercation.
And suddenly, Trump and his top officials are attacking gun rights like they're Democrats.
FBI Director Kash Patel argued that Pretty's mere possession of a gun or an extra magazine was evidence of his nefarious intent. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem falsely claimed the extra magazine was illegal.
And former federal prosecutor Bill Essaley posted that if you approach law enforcement with a gun, there is a high likelihood they will be legally justified in shooting you.
That's exactly the kind of rhetoric gun rights groups spent years condemning when Democrats said it.
And they're condemning it now. The NRA posted, "This sentiment is dangerous and wrong. Awaiting a full investigation, not making generalizations and demonizing law-abiding citizens."
Gun Owners of America also condemned it, saying federal agents are not highly likely to be legally justified in shooting concealed carry licensees who approach while lawfully carrying a firearm.
They pointed out that the Second Amendment protects Americans' right to bear arms while protesting, a right the federal government must not infringe upon.
But here's the thing. Republicans spent years telling us the Second Amendment was under constant attack. Now, when federal agents actually kill someone lawfully exercising that right, they're defending the killers.
The hypocrisy is staggering. When citizens carry guns, it's a right. When government agents kill citizens with guns, the citizen was at fault for having a gun.
This could be a great example of why gun rights exist, to protect the citizenry from the state. Instead, the modern right looks to the White House for legal advice.
Tread on me, daddy, has never sounded less hot.
And here's the irony. All this gun control talk, all this surveillance, all this labeling people as terrorists is supposedly to protect us from immigrants. But the data doesn't back that up.
According to multiple studies tracking incarceration rates, U.S.-born citizens are more than twice as likely as immigrants to be incarcerated for weapons offenses, 5 times more likely for violent offenses, more than twice as likely for property crimes.
Immigrants are actually associated with statistically significant decreases in violent crime. A study published in the National Institutes of Health database found that immigrants are associated with lower crime rates, not higher.
During the period of increased immigration they studied, the violent crime rate fell 34.5%, and the property crime rate fell 63.3%.
So the problem isn't immigrants. The problem is the broken legal immigration system.
USCIS backlogs are at record highs in fiscal year 2025. Some people are waiting over 10 years for visas.
The Dignity Act of 2025 even proposed that people waiting more than 10 years could pay a $20,000 premium processing fee to get their visa.
That's pay-to-play immigration. The state created this crisis with caps and quotas, then claims to solve it with surveillance, databases, and violence.
The solution is simple. Expand legal immigration channels. Let people come and work. Free movement of labor creates prosperity. Immigrants start businesses, fill labor gaps, and contribute to economic growth. Deport violent offenders who actually commit crimes. Stop criminalizing people who want to come here and contribute.
But that would require the state to give up power, and they never do that.
Instead, they'll build more databases, deploy more insecure cameras, label more peaceful observers as terrorists, and claim guns are only bad when citizens have them.
Meanwhile, protesters will keep blocking traffic, handing federal agents excuses, and wondering why nothing changes.
Because power isn't seized in an afternoon. It's built patiently through knowledge, networks, institutions, and trust. Or it's handed away freely by playing directly into the state's narrative.
Something both the state and modern protesters seem to have forgotten.
That's the story for today. ICE calling observers terrorists. Surveillance cameras that bypass the Fourth Amendment while being hackable by anyone. Counterproductive protests that give authoritarianism exactly what it wants. Gun hypocrisy. And immigration fear-mongering. All the state can offer.
Have fun with that nice little database. Until next time, don't let the state stick it to you without consent.